Hello. Am I live? I'm belated in pulling my microphone closer to my mouth. Also, I don't know if you can tell or if you've been tuning in, but the background is different. That's because I moved my desk. After our Valentine's Day stream where we remodeled, I saw it through. Don't know how I like it. My walking pad is very exposed, but that's fine. I'm typing because I'm trying to pull up and make sure we have audio. This is basically just going to be a quick stream. I know how I like it. We have audio, yay, wonderful. Have y'all been? I went on my first solo trip this weekend. I traveled all alone and did a whole trip all alone. I've flown alone before, but I was like flying to meet someone. And so this was my first time being like, I'm going to a strange land and I'm going to be there all alone and the itinerary will be my own. And when I tell you that I crashed hard the first day, I crashed really hard. I think that was mostly in part because I am a very sensory sensitive person, and going about so much of the day after being in an airport for so long and then being in snow slush and wearing denim and sweater knit and navigating a city and paid parking with all of those variables also occurring all at once was a bit much. And then the next day was literally a perfect day. I called my parents the night prior in tears because I was so overwhelmed. And then the next day I actually sent the text message. Today was actually the perfect day, I think. So you live and you learn. And that is exactly kind of part of why I planned this trip is I was like, you know what? I need to do some living and some learning. And yeah. I went to Chicago. I navigated doing my first rental car ever, and I am just 1 year. I'm 4 months away from not being under an underage car rental renter. So I had to deal with the little underage fee. But I was like, you know what? This is the time in my life where I have a lot of the freedom to learn these lessons. And so I went ahead and did it. And I'm so glad I did because there's really no better time than to learn the brutal lesson that in some parking garages in downtown Chicago, you will pay $60 for 2 hours. It's also kind of a fun lesson to learn though, because at one point, by the final day, I was like, this is done. I had a fancy white tablecloth lunch because I was like, if I drive somewhere else to have a more reasonable lunch, I'm just going to have to pay for parking again. So I may as well stay here and stay through the rest of the time window for my parking. And wouldn't you know it, my white tablecloth lunch with good tip was less than my parking. So cheers to that. And it was a fancy restaurant such that you order the sandwich and the sandwich doesn't come with fries or side. And they on their menu had vindaloo. Vindaloo curry fries as a side. And I was like, that sounds phenomenal. So I got the vindaloo curry fries as a side. And they were so yummy. But that is to give you some context for what kind of restaurant this was. And the fact that my whole meal was still cheaper than parking is frankly unforgivable. It's horrible. But it's fine. We lived, we learned. I did live, I did learn. It was 8 degrees out too on my final day. So that was fun. Crazy, because I'm a Texas girl. I'm not used to this. What else? Kind of just speaking off the cuff at this point. Not much of it is relevant, but it's like a little catch-up stream. That's what I said. I said it was going to be a catch-up stream. I'm bringing you a catch-up stream. I did have one of my nails, and this has never happened before, but I've always known that, like, people go into the nail salon whenever, like, one of their nails gets ruined, and the salon will just fix it. So I had the first ever time where, like, one of my nails just popped off. Like, 2 days into having my nails done, one of my nails just got snagged and ruined, and so I went in and got it taken care of yesterday after work. So that was, like, also a fun little adult learning moment. I did a coat rental for this trip because I knew the weather was going to be so unlike anything we have here that I was like, you know what, I think it's going to actually be worth my while to, like, I did Nuuly is the brand, and I got, like, a whole bunch of coats. So I have to send back my Nuuly today, and I'm kind of sad because me and this coat have been everywhere together for the past 4 days. This coat was a blanket, a pillow, and a soft place to land while I was spending the night at Midway, Chicago Midway. This is the second all-nighter I have pulled at Chicago Midway. First time I ever flew alone, I was supposed to be flying to Michigan, and then I was supposed to connect through Baltimore. I connected 2 connections. That was my first mistake. That was my first lesson learned as an adult, was when you're booking a flight, don't book a flight with 2 connections. So I connected through Tennessee, and it was a situation where it was one of those sitting connections, basically, like a layover. What are they called? Basically, like, you don't have to move. You stay on the plane. Except at that point, my next connection, the flight had just gotten flat out canceled because there was bad weather in Baltimore. And so I went to the gate agent and was like, hey, my flight got canceled. What do I do? And they were like, we're sending you to Chicago, but you're going to have to be there overnight. So I was like, slay, slay, slay. I loved the idea of Chicago. Was fine with spending the night in Chicago. Didn't really think through the fact that when you're spending the night in an airport, it doesn't really matter where the hell you are because you're just in the airport. But let me tell you, me and Chicago Midway got to know each other very well that day. And so when I found out I was going to have to stay there again, it was fine. And I made friends, so really, maybe spending the night at Midway Chicago is just the friends you made along the way. The reason, though, that we had to stay overnight was because, and this is still crazy to me, the fact that this can happen, because I don't know if you've ever ordered DoorDash, but they won't let you DoorDash, let's say, Buffalo Wild Wings if Buffalo Wild Wings is closed, right? Right, like Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. They're not going to let you order DoorDash Chick-fil-A if it's Sunday. Easy, right? So that's why it really took me by surprise when I'm on a plane. And the reason that my initial flight was delayed was because they had staffed it with flight attendants that were on another flight that was delayed. That makes sense to me. That's fine. Understood. Life happens. But so our flight was delayed. It was a 10:50 flight. And we were told after watching at the gate, like it said on time the whole time. There was like a glitch in the app that was like, that had said delayed. But then it had basically faltered back to on time. And it had been on time for the whole time that I was sitting at the gate. So it's like, oh my God, we're about to board in 7 minutes. Yay. I was so ready to get home. And then they came on the loudspeaker and they were like, hey, we are actually not boarding in 7 minutes because your flight attendants are actually on a flight that, mind you, it's 10 o'clock. Your flight attendants are actually on a flight that's not even going to land until 11. Boo, boo. Which is, again, that's fine. it just means I'm going to be getting home a little bit later than expected. I was like, going to be an hour later. That's fine, right? Going to be a little tired at work the next day. Wrong, because so then the flight attendants arrived. They got us on the plane. Literally have never been more excited to see people in my whole wide life. Was so happy, so grateful. The getting on plane process was smooth. I was in a good seat. We're on the flight. We're waiting. I find out the airport we are flying into has a curfew. And so they will not let us even take off because the time we will land will be 5 minutes past curfew. So we had to all get off the plane, and they booked us for a flight the next morning. And so we had to wait all the way overnight because we were 5 minutes late. And this is nobody's fault. I understand life happens. I understand things happen. But we were not 5 minutes late for any other reason than someone decided that the staffing our plane for our 10:40 flight, we're going to be on a flight that wasn't even going to land until 11. Again, likely because of a delay. So then you can't really plan ahead for that. So then that's fine. And they were exhausted too. I understand. And it actually ended up being fun pulling a little all-nighter in the airport. I made friends. So everything was it was fine. And when I said that this whole trip was for learning lessons, that was a learning lesson. If you're flying into Chicago Midway, you're going to have to pull an all-nighter because I'm 2 for 2. But yeah, so that happened. So then, of course, like, I'm running on no sleep. And I planned on, like, just basically getting back, sleeping, coming to work. But seeing as I was literally not even landing until halfway through the workday and landing with no sleep, I didn't get to come to work. So I hit the ground running yesterday and today, and this has been a 3-day unexpected 3-day work week. Crazy. So stupid too, because like I truly would have just worked at the airport if I had thought to bring my work laptop. But I was like, I don't want to travel with my work laptop because, like, what are the odds because I really only, you know what I used my laptop for while I was on vacation? I watched Gossip Girl on it. And that doesn't feel appropriate to bring your work laptop and watch Gossip Girl on your work laptop in an airport. So I didn't. So, yeah. Yeah, that was my weekend. Super fun, all things considered. But yeah, I feel like I've kind of hit the ground running this week, but like a little bit like maybe I threw out my knee when I hit the ground running, and so I've been crawling. But I rearranged my office because some of the disorganization that was visually happening was making everything harder. So everything is back on track. Like I said, I've been running like little errands even as I've gotten home and gotten everything back together, and that has made me feel better. And like all my ducks are slowly but surely getting back in a row. So, well, this has just been kind of a personal life catch up, I guess. Still working on website updates. I have been doing other video production stuff, which has slowed me down on the website updates, but it's a coming. And I finally have gotten, I think, let's see, I have 6 new graphics that I've gotten to a place that I like. I think I'm going to do a couple more. So I have like a nice, good carousel. But this is a part of the movement to restructure the website so that it will be optimized for mobile rather than desktop. So that's what I'm working on. Okay, thank you for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. It will be Friday. Goodbye.